ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we are going to discuss we will be discussing on the first verse of the third chapter today. All right? Everyone is comfortable? Everyone is comfortable? Yeah? I think so. Yeah, thank you. So everyone has been through the second chapter, right? We've all been through the second chapter. So did we do an overview of the second chapter or overview? So today I may not be doing an overview. The second chapter was mainly about the summarized content of the message that is given in the Bhagavad Gita through all the remaining chapters. Krishna spoke from chapter 2 through chapter 18. So in 17 chapters, the message that Sri Krishna wanted to give Arjun is kind of summarized in the second chapter. Is it all right? So Srila Prabhupada, he entitled the second chapter as Contents of the Gita Summarized. Now the third chapter is called as Karma Yoga. So since the second chapter was an introduction to most of the subject matters in the Bhagavad Gita, what would be the application of that knowledge will be explained in the third chapter. Like if I have the knowledge that samosas are very crispy, now that knowledge needs to be applied, isn't it? Either on a personal level or a community level. So if the samosas are crispy and let's imagine that we are hosting a program at a house, then the idea is that those samosas should be honored by the guests. And we could also try a bit, since we are the host. So the application would be that the guests should have the samosas. So on the community level too, the knowledge has to be applicable. And personal level, yes, I like crispy samosas, or I may not like crispy samosas. So accordingly, I may decide to eat it either standalone or with something else. So similarly, the third chapter explains how one has to put this knowledge into action. So that is just in brief, the third chapter. The third chapter begins with Arjuna asking a query. And it is very helpful that his query is a little challenging. Because sometimes we expect that if you know that you're in the presence of a great personality, then you would want to be on your best behavior. Not that Arjuna is forgetting his manners, he's not doing that. But trying to be on a best behavior, we may not feel very, very comfortable asking challenging questions. Arjun is really interested in resolving the issue at hand. So Vyasadeva, he says, Arjuna Uvach. I think here in the West we say Arjuna Uvacha. So Arjuna spoke. Arjuna Uvach. So if you want, you can follow from the book. Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. So if you want, you can look at the word for word meanings. You can look at it so that you could have a general understanding of what is being expressed here in this verse. So Jayasi Cheta Karmanaste. Arjuna is saying, if Karmanaha is considered by you to be more important, Jayasi, better, to be more important or better, if more than karma or actions, buddhi or intelligence is considered to be more better, because Here it is the dative, karmanaha. So, of the actions, or in comparison. So actions are in comparison to buddhi, intelligence. So if intelligence is more important than actions, then kim, why, ghore karmani. Ghore means ghastly, dastardly, drastic. If you can avoid it, you should try to avoid it. That is ghore. Very intense. Ghore. So ghore karmani, intense activities. Here it is in relationship to fighting and killing people in war. So why are you encouraging me to engage in such ghastly activities? So, very good question. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that sometimes procrastination can be taken to be being smart. And sometimes one's lack of confidence could be considered to be procrastination. So he says we have to be careful of both. He explains that many times people who take up the spiritual practices, they feel that if they go to a secluded place, then they would be better off practicing the spiritual duties. So either that's procrastination, because when they are going to do that, nobody knows. And right now they feel that this isn't comfortable because this is not a secluded place. Or they're simply trying to procrastinate because they do not have the confidence that they can take up to that practice. So Prabhupada, he wants us to be aware that this approach may actually create many more problems in the future. Rather, if we are serious to take up to certain practices, then we should be finding courage within us to take an important step towards the goal of those practices. We should try and find courage. Hari Bol. Second chapter, let's do some revision. Which could help us see whether second chapter done last week is still relevant this week or not. Yeah, we're ready for a revision? All right. What is the gist of the second chapter? What are some of the major topics that were covered during the talk that Krishna had with Arjuna, when Krishna spoke to Arjuna? Just to give a brief understanding of the need for Krishna to speak. That is the first chapter, right? So the first chapter, Arjun was feeling really very despondent. So generally when you are very despondent in life, what do you feel? You feel you want to become a renunciate. Everyone agrees? Too many problems. Sometimes I really think to give up everything and go. Go where? If you're from India, typically it is going to the Himalayas. Somehow the Himalayas have been burdened with desires of the population. Since ages, people in India are like, we want to go into the Himalayas. And the Himalayas like, hey, there are other mountains too. Have you heard of the Sahyadris, the Nilgiris, the Vindhyas? Everyone wants to go into the Himalayas in India. Here, if you have some understanding of the Vedic tradition, Sanatana Dharma, then everyone wants to go to Vrindavan or maybe the Himalayas. I'm really thinking that I should just take a break. Go where? Follow either Mark, right? He went into the Himalayas to find the guru of, who was there for Apple? What is his name? Steve. Yeah. So Steve told him that if you ever have problems in life, give up everything, go into the Himalayas. So Mark went into the Himalayas. Came back and started Facebook. I mean, we would also love to do that, so go into the Himalayas, come back and start something like that. But anyways, when one really feels very, very desperate, especially with things happening in life, there is the unspoken attitude that I have to give up all that is troubling me and just go away. Somehow. Arjun also expressed a similar intent. I don't want to stay here fighting. I just want to renounce and go away. Krishna, he looked into his bag and he said, here, take this chill pill. Chill out now. So Arjun felt very nice. Oh, Krishna is sympathizing with me. Because that is how it started off. The second chapter starts off like that. Ashru Purna Kulekshanam. Vishidantam idam vakyam uvach Harisudana. Kripaya Vishnam tam, saying Arjuna, with his eyes full of tears, the merciful Lord Krishna started speaking. So it seems that it is going to be a very empathic session. Please, just open up. Let everything out. So Arjuna was also expecting a similar session. So he felt very comfortable. And then Krishna shook him up. How has this impurity come upon you, Arjun? Arjun's like, I did not expect that. This is not very good. He was like, Krishna, you should follow what they do at the ISKCON temple. First give some prasad. Tell me how fortunate I am to be here. Convince me that it is by Krishna's blessings that I am here. And after some time, tell them, yeah, we do not eat onion and garlic and food. Just slowly. Krishna is like, no time. Can you see? There's an entire army standing there. This is crisis management. So there was an external situation and an internal situation in Arjun's life. Anyways, so the second chapter is where Arjun's basic understanding of existence is being invoked. Krishna is asking Arjun, do you still remember coding and programming? Do you still do that? Or since the time you've been in a manager's role, you've forgotten about it? So Arjuna says, I'll try. So Krishna starts feeding data. He says, here, these are the worksheets. Work on them. What do you think is a problem here? What do you think is the way to approach it? What are the solutions? So he gave him the worksheet. What was the first sheet about? It was about the eternal nature of the soul. Says Arjun, refresh your memory. Do you remember your language? Python. Because if you don't know that, Java. So Java and Python of the second chapter. Maybe the scripts. The first is the eternal nature of the soul. So Krishna speaks a series of verses. Actually, he never knew that he's speaking a series of verses. He just spoke. Vyasdev looked at it and he said, oh, this is nice. This can be one verse, this can be second verse, third verse. So Vyasdev compiled it like that. So whenever we say in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, we should remember that it is Vyasdev who has formatted it. So in bracket, we should always try to remember, as has been formatted by Vyasadev. It is not like Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjun, 2.1. And Arjuna is not saying, Krishna, 2.46, my question. All right. So the basic language, or the languages on which further programs that are developed in the second chapter are two. One is the nature of the soul. The second is the distinction between the body and the soul. All right? Krishna never discusses the nature of the body, by the way. I mean, he does in relationship to the distinction that the soul has, WRT, the body, with respect to the body. The reason I'm trying to say that is so that we understand that that which we really are committed to is actually taken its franchisee from another owner. The body is simply a franchisee. So all these bodies are various franchises. The owner is a soul. We could say the super soul, the supreme soul. Hence, that which we really commit ourselves to is actually a subsidiary. Hence, Arjuna's question by Krishna, how is it that you have fallen into this illusion? So, distinction between the body and the soul. Now, based on these two basic principles, two programs were developed and a hint of a third program was there. The first program that was developed by Krishna in the second chapter is Karma Yoga, the path of actions without attachment. He spoke about it quite well, sufficiently. The second program that Krishna developed was Jnana Yoga, cultivation of spiritual knowledge and restraint of the senses. Is that all right? So Karma Yoga is about how to use the senses for spiritual upliftment. So it is about action. If you want to lift yourself up, upliftment, if you want to go to another place, it's very important that you give up your connection to where you began from. You have to lift yourself up. Let's say you want to go from rung 1 of the ladder to rung 4. It is very important that you give up rung 1, step 1. This is called as detachment. So if you want to perform actions and you cling on to step 1, you may try and reach up to step 4, but it is really going to be a stretch. You could have a muscle pulled if you do that. You could have muscular injuries. Therefore, give up your dependence on step 1. Find the courage, the confidence, the ability, and the route or the way to lift yourself up. So this is Karma Yoga. Performing actions without attachment. Which basically means you are at place A, you're trying to reach B. For that you have to perform some activity. As you are reaching or as you are inching towards place B, you give up your attachment to place A. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to reach B, point B. Is that simple? Shall I make it very complicated? Like esoteric? One should try and not worry about what is there in it for us. We should be very, very kind-hearted, compassionate, and work for the world around us. Please clap. That sounded very nice, isn't it? But since we are all technicians here, engineers, so technically what it simply means is that detach. Because you're moving from point A to point B. So detachment from point A is needed. And what is Jnana Yoga? Upliftment. So Jnana Yoga is cultivation of spiritual knowledge so that there is restraint of senses. As you're traveling towards point B, there are so many exits here. They are not meant for you. Your GPS will reroute. Always rerouting. Because you have fed in another destination into that GPS. You know what is GPS? Guru positioning system. There is a voice. It could be Krishna's voice in the form of the knowledge of the Gita. Rerouting. Please take the next right. Get onto the highway towards point B, the expressway towards point B. And then you're like, hey GPS, why are you taking me towards point B? And the GPS is like, that is what you fed. That is the data you gave me. So if in life you are wanting to reach point B, obviously there are going to be so many other points of interest. But are they meant for you? Is that your plan? Is it a part of your plan? Is it a part of your contingency plan? If it is not, restraint of the senses. And what helps you restrain your senses? I have to be at point B because I have this appointment or because I have this important thing to do. Knowledge. Knowledge of why your goal is important. Spiritual knowledge helps you understand what is the ultimate goal in life. And therefore, restraint of senses is very helpful in spiritual practices. Jnana makes you understand that. All right? Now, once we have these two programs working, being emotive beings, having emotions, we need to connect somewhere where we feel safe. Is it correct? Don't all of us want that to happen? Let's say at point B and you find yourself to be uncomfortable there. You feel you're not safe there. Would you be happy? No. So you need to find safety. The reason is we are emotional people. We have emotions. Safety is helpful. Self-preservation. So practicing these yoga principles, Krishna also explains in the second chapter, taking shelter of the Supreme, taking refuge of the Lord. He explains that too. And for making this journey and achieving the goal and afterlife, means having achieved the goal, now what? Does life come to an end? No. So therefore we use the term afterlife. Doesn't mean that we die. What I'm saying is, what do you do once you reach that goal? So, while we are on that journey, and once we have achieved our goal, we need our mind to be very stable. So, equanimity of the mind and the attainment of liberation or moksha is also explained in the second chapter. So, spirit soul, distinction between spirit and matter, the spirit, soul and the body, action in detachment, knowledge with restraint of the senses, refuge or shelter, and for all this we need the mind to be stable. So equanimity of the mind and laksha prapti, moksha. All right? So a lot of data there. Hence, the second chapter is called as Bhagavad Gita summarized. in the rest of the 16 chapters, there will be elaboration on these topics of the Bhagavad Gita. So coming to Arjuna's query today. So Arjun had been shown his weakness. First, Krishna just challenged him that how is it that you have fallen to illusion? But then Krishna scanned Arjuna, his persona. He scanned it. He looked at the plate. This is the problem, Arjun. Once a person in pain went to a doctor. Is there any technical term for a pain relief doctor? Not as yet. That is not a specialty as yet, right? Is it? Okay, he goes to a doctor. Doctor, I feel pain all over the body. The doctor asks him where, can he point out? He says, right here. It's so painful. Whereas, and he says, doc, here, oh my God, it's very painful. Whereas, right here, it's very painful. Here, it's painful. Here, it's painful. So the doctor said, all right, let me have a look. So the doctor took his instrument and he touched his head. He said, does this pain? And he says, no. Then doctor touched different parts of his body. Does it pain? He says, no. So the doctor is confused. Can you let me know where it pains again? He says, doc, here it pains. Here it pains. And doc says, anywhere on your head? He says, here also it pains. So doctor said, all right, I've understood your problem. I'm not sure if you're laughing out of compassion or because you know what's the issue here. So the doctor prescribed a pain liniment. And the doctor told him, for 7 days, I'm going to put your index finger in a splint and make it immobile. He says, doc, my whole body should be in a splint. It's paining everywhere. The doctor said, no, it's just paining here. Because wherever you touch, this is paining. How many of you all figured that out? Very good. You're very, very, very active on the internet. Just like me. You've subscribed to certain groups, just like me. So Krishna looked at Arjuna and he said, this is your issue. This is your problem, your weakness. He said, what is my weakness? He says, Krishna told him, asocyan anvasochastvam. You are crying for that which is not worth lamenting for. You're crying for that which is not worth lamenting for. All right? So after Krishna has spoken about all these topics and Krishna is a little silent, Arjuna feels that now he should get back. For sometimes he felt he was on the back foot. Oh, oh, the soul is like this, the soul is like that, Avinashi, and the soul is neither born nor does it is destroyed. The soul transmigrates. So all of that Krishna explains, like long, long talk. And then he tells him about how the soul is distinct from the body. So all of that. He has been through all of that. So Arjun feels that, all right, I can also be smart. I think I've figured out what is your weakness. That is why he asks this question. Krishna, in the third chapter, what is his question? O Janardhan, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? So if you have knowledge, knowledge should be the benefiting society, isn't it? That is what knowledge is for, right? Is that true or false? Is knowledge meant to benefit society? What do you think? Other than their own personal reimbursements, the money that one makes, other than that, what do you think lawyers are trained to do? Manage the issues in society. What do you think engineers are trained to do? Try and assist with whatever are the requirements of society. Correct? Is that true or false? What is a trained chef supposed to do? Deal with all the food needs that people have. True? So knowledge is meant to benefit society. We agree on this? So why are you asking me to participate in a ghastly war? Very interesting question, no? Like, look at how perceptive Arjuna is. Krishna, Kim karmani ghore mam? Why? And then he also tries to defend his position using all the information that Krishna gave unto him. Now we'll look at a few verses. I had about a dozen verses, but I don't think so we have time for that. Let us go to verse number 2.49. We can do that. So before that, verse number 2.47 is a very, very well-known verse. Very often it has been misquoted. It's about how you should work without considering yourself to be the enjoyer of the fruits of your work. It is not speaking about how you can or cannot enjoy the results of your work. That is not being said. Whether you enjoy the results of your work or you don't enjoy the results of your work, whether you get benefited or you don't get benefited from the results of your work, it is completely a different subject matter, which is not being addressed here in this verse at all. 2.47. What is being addressed is, if you get benefited, you may not get benefited. Others get benefited, they may not get benefited. One should never consider oneself to be the enjoyer of the fruits, the enjoyer of the results of the work. Why? Because when we work, we are simply facilitating certain resources to come together to give the result. Let's take a simple example. I like Sir Newton very much. I'm not sure if somebody gave him the knighthood or not, but I would like to give him the knighthood. Sir Isaac Newton. I love him. He really must have hated apple chutneys. Or he must have allergy to apples. So the apple falls down, he starts wondering, and he gives us certain laws of motion. Newton's first law, Newton's second law, Newton's third law of motion. Correct? I hope I'm correct. Sometimes I myself wonder that I sound to be very, very learned, but occasionally I have doubts about myself. So I ask my audience, is that correct? Hopefully my audience is in similar boots like me that I am in. So Newton ji, Sir Newton, he decided to reveal to the world the act of gravity. Correct? This is all by gravitational pull. At least we attribute it to him. Am I right? Do you think we can really give all the glory to Newton? What about the functioning of the human body? Do you think that the construction of the human body, the way it was planned, was put into motion after, or was activated after Newton discovered gravity? What are the heart's walls all about then? What are the veins, the walls in the veins all about then? You know, the heart pumps in a particular direction. And especially if it is pumping blood towards the rest of the body, the heart has to take into consideration that this blood has to come back. It cannot stagnate right there. Now, pushing the blood needs force. But what is helping the heart? Gravity. So the blood flows. But when it has to come back, now gravity is working against the flow. And if one has issues with circulation, then most probably some of the challenges, some of the issues that one can have, health issues, is varicose veins. stagnating. So what I'm trying to say is that when they taught us, another simple example, when they taught us that when you take one object and divide into two, then it becomes two objects. And if the division has been brought about under certain conditions, then they're divided into two identical objects, identical subsets. That is math. Do you think cell division followed that? The whatever, the original first primordial soup cell. Do you think it was waiting for some mathematician to come up with this? I don't know what to do. Why? Because there's no math. We do not know division here. Do you think H2 and O2 are waiting for us to understand whether it is 2H2 plus O2 or 3H2 plus O2 to give H2O? Oh no, we have to wait. Why? Oh, in the 16th century, they are going to understand how two molecules of hydrogen plus one molecule of oxygen is going to combine to give you two molecules of water. Lovely. Let us give the prize to this person who discovered this formula. Really? What was waiting for us? No. So, when we understand that we have used certain resources, much of those resources, majority of those resources, including our own existence, is because of external factors. Our own existence in the form of this body is because of the carbs, the proteins. The immune system, the various functional systems in the body. And therefore, if we claim that, haha, I worked hard to get this result, therefore I am the enjoyer of this result. No, sir. No, madam, you are not. Because if you say that you are, it shows that you have not sufficiently gained knowledge. If you believe in science, if you are a scientist, you understand that actually you are one of the factors involved in the process. Right? Now we go to Walmart. Oh, as humans, we have made so much advancement. Why? All the labels there, they exactly tell you to the micro units what are the essential products there that are helpful for you. Yeah. You give a cow, you give a goat grass that is not healthy for it, food that is not healthy for it. The goat doesn't look at the label. The cow doesn't look at the label. Even the crow doesn't look at the labels because the crow really doesn't need that kind of information. You put a grain of sugar right here. Do you think the ants have a WhatsApp group or something? Like Telegram? Hey! Grain of sugar right here. Coordinates are so much north, south. Do you think they have that? But you see all of them from somewhere or the other they manifest. Which means they have that kind of intelligence. That is the sophisticated intelligence that they have. To zone in. Try it out. Just try it out. You put some decaying fruit outside and look at all the fruit flies that come. And you're like, where did they come from? Who gave them this information? So the point is, 2.47 helps you understand that real knowledge is when you realize, when every individual realizes based on the eyes of knowledge that they are simply one of the factors that have played their role in achieving the result. Only in human dramas, when humans put up dramas, right? Or cartoons, animated presentations, or AI, do you find the animals in the jungle coronating the king of the jungle? And all the animals come like ding, ding, like that. And the king is sitting on the throne, the lion, and there's a crown. And that only happens in human society when humans want to portray that. Do you think in animal society that is what they do? The deer comes and, you are our king, please take this crown. Only in the world of animation can Bambi and the Sher Khan be friends, This is how full of vanity we as humans are. We have decided that the animals have chosen the lion as the king. We have decided that. And we are trying to convince the lion too. You are the king. He's like, why? We say so. Therefore, karmanyavadika, karmanya eva. The only thing that we can lay claim to is the decision to work. That is all that we have a rightful claim to. The decision to work and the effort put in. Then depends upon all the micro and macro level arrangement of this universe to have the result there. So, ma phaleshu kadachana. We should never consider ourselves to be the owner. We should never consider ourselves to have ownership over the results of our work. We can use it. No problem with that. This is a problem that people have when they don't understand knowledge. In my early days, the days when there were no phones, forget phones. There was practically one TV in the entire community. And that person, the uncle, had to put it on a Sunday in one of the windows facing outside. And the whole community would be sitting on the unpaved lawn. There was no lawn. So those days, I was visiting somebody that I knew in a remote place. So this is in India. So I asked them that before I enter your house, should I take off my footwear? Rather, I asked them, where should I keep it? Because you don't ask them, should I take it off or not? They're like, where are your sanskars? Is this what you were taught? It starts from home, school, everywhere. Didn't they teach you at school? Didn't teach? So I said, where should I keep my footwear? This is right there. It was a closed chamber. It had a handle. I opened it. There were racks. I put my shoe in there. Later on, when I studied science, I realized that that cabinet is supposed to be called a refrigerator. It was non-functional. So jugaad, they used it as a shoe rack. So I asked them, why don't you use it as storage? They say everything gets spoiled if you keep it inside. It's closed, airtight chamber. Shoes. Yeah? So how the result of the work, how you use it, it depends upon what your needs are. You can be happy with the way you use it. What we are being told is, please don't consider that we have ownership. We are the sole proprietorship over that result. That would be too arrogant. We can always say that the element fire played a part in it. We can say the metals, they played a part in it. We can always say time played a part in it. There's so many other factors. So that is verse 2.47. But we are trying to go to 2.49. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjun, work, don't be attached to the results of work. All right? So Arjuna says, fine. So then Krishna says, this is possible if you are equipoised. So he tells him about equanimity of the mind. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Be yogastha. So the word yogastha has been translated as equipoised. Why? Because yogastha is further clarified by siddhya siddho samo bhutva. Whether in success or failure, you should still be very, very enthusiastic about going. You should be enthusiastic going about your business, even if it's success. Somebody asked a scientist, after they had a successful launch of a particular project, a very, very important project, successfully launched. So they asked the scientist that now you'll take rest, isn't it? For the first time, maybe you'll eat a plate full of food peacefully. He said, yes, definitely going to do that. So what's next? Scientist said, wash my plate. After having eaten from a plate, the next thing is wash my plate. That is how scientists are. But dreamers only dream. There's an important statement about dreams. To be a good dreamer, you have to dream good. To be a good dreamer, you have to dream good. Tomorrow, if you are going to use this quote somewhere, please mention my name too. Right now, I think it is original. I'm not sure, but right now I think it's original content. All right. Scientists are very pragmatic because they understand science. Those who think that they are scientists, they may be pragmatic or not. Scientists, you ask them, who are you? They'll call themselves, most probably they'll refer to themselves as being pragmatists. Practical people. Others call them scientists. But somebody who feels that they're a scientist, they're like, yeah, I'm the scientist. Or they could say that, no, I'm just trying to look at everything in a practical way. So, siddhya siddho. Success, what are you going to do? After eating food, wash my plate. Failure, sir, you must really feel bad. What are you going to do? Eat my food. I mean, it's failed. I cannot Till the time we were like really into deployment mode, into the launch mode, we're like, yeah, after it's done, we'll eat. Now it's done, I'm going to eat. Therefore, they never take bites from scientists. There's no TRP for it. Who do they take bites from? The PR people. So the PR people are always ready to give proper bites because there is TRP value to it. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, Yogastha, be equipoised. And in verse 2.49, Durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya. O Dhananjaya Arjun, Durena hyavaram karma. Durena, stay away from, give up. Let that never come into your mind, your imagination. What? Avaram karma. He, without fail, certainly. Hey Arjun, let me tell you this. Very important. Discard it. Throw it away. Stay away from. Arjun is like, what? Avaram karma. What is avaram karma? Vara. You've heard of the word vara? Vardhan. You've heard vardhan. So what is vara? Vara means benediction. That which is beneficial. Avara is the opposite of that which is beneficial. So avaram karma means abominable work. So now you see where Arjuna is getting ammunition from to ask his question. What is his question? Ghore karmani mam. Just some time back you said that stay away from abominable work, and now you're asking me to participate in this ghastly act. Why are you doing it? This is called as pick and choose. It's like when you go to pick apples, no? Apples, peaches, you go to a farm. Pick. So tendency to collect is very, very strong. Hence they say, eat as much as you can and pay for all that you're going to carry. Right? Truthfully, a lot of people who feel that we are very deprived coming from a third world country, their first day ever in their life on the farm, the next day they have an upset stomach. Typically, generally they do that. It's because, we can digest anything and everything. It's for free. So let me have sufficient. The next day they have an upset stomach. No problem. The upset stomach is worth eating all of that free fruit. But after some time, they get used to, social pressure, peer pressure. Oh, if I have to be counted amongst the locals, then this is what I have to adopt. So the next few visits, the intrinsic nature is to eat as much for free. But since we have to adapt, I think it's enough. Yeah? So Arjuna is asking Krishna, hey Krishna, you just told me to stay away from abominable work. How do you justify asking me to participate in this ghastly war? And then he also justifies using another logic. What is that logic? Jyayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir. He says that another point to be considered. And let us go to verse number 71 and 72 now. He says, a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain peace, real peace. That is the translation. He says, you convinced me to be equipoised. You convinced me to restrain my senses. You convinced me that I have to be free from all desires. And for all of this, you said I should use my intelligence. And now you're trying to convince me that although I have to give up activities of the senses, still I should fight. Because fighting, I have to use my senses. I have to use my hands, my feet, my ears, my eyes. You just told me, just recently, like a minute ago, Krishna, you told me, give up. A person who is free from all desires, who's given up sense of proprietorship, devoid of false ego. You've told me all of that. Hence, he says, Cheta karmanaste buddhirmata. If you have explained to me that intelligence is superior to activities of the senses, karma, how is it that you are engaging me in this war? Srila Prabhupada has a very, very interesting take on this. He says, many people, when they read the Vedic text, and especially in today's times, Bhagavad Gita is like the norm. It is trending, isn't it? Bhagavad Gita is trending, right? Amongst Vedic texts, amongst written texts by saints, maybe it's Hanuman Chalisa or something like that. But Gita is really trending. If you know the Gita, if you have the Gita, that means you're spiritual. I mean, really people feel like that. Once I was trying to distribute books someplace, and I asked one person, please take the Bhagavad Gita. That person said, I already have. My grandfather had the Gita, we still have it at home. So just asked him, your grandfather also ate food. You still eat the same food? He's like, what do you mean? I said, he had the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore, because you're related to him, you also have it. How does that make sense? So as I tried another route, I said, can you give me change for 100 rupees? He said, I don't carry change. So I said, all right, I have change of 50 rupees. Can you give me 50 rupees? He said, I'll transfer it to you. He wanted to help me out. Somewhere maybe somebody had told him, if you helped out a shaven-headed person in saffron, you don't need to break a coconut from anywhere. You'll get some special benefits because you helped out a saint. No need to break a coconut. He said, I'll transfer it to you. So he went to Paytm and was ready to transfer. So I said, Right now, you have this technology by which you can transfer money to me. But it is digital currency. Correct? I believe you, you believe me. However, digital currency can only be currency if you use it. Otherwise, it is just another video game. I transfer money from here to there and you don't use that money. I mean, it could as well as be monopoly money. So just because your father, your grandfather had it and it's staying in your house, are you saying that you're able to use it? No. I've heard that simply keeping the Bhagavad Gita gives you a lot of benefits. So I requested him, read the Gita. Hopefully, he liked the request. I don't know. Maybe he could block me also. So I just sent him a request. So Prabhupada says, Arjun here is using all of his skills to skillfully avoid the fighting. It's very interesting what people who are well read in the alphabet, how they learn this knack of skillfully avoiding. Arjun could have simply said that, I just don't have the stomach for it. But he says, no. Krishna called me a person who's lamenting for something that is not worth lamenting for. I'll show him how knowledgeable I am. You told me that a self-realized person does not participate in abominable work. You told me a self-realized person does not give in to desires, is free from ego, is inactive. Now you're asking me to fight? Doesn't work like that. There is a very interesting psychological aspect to this. This happens to people that may not be aware of the arrogant trait that we may have in a personality, or the tinge of vanity that we may have in a personality. Many people are not aware of it. That is how vanity is. Everyone understands vanity? Yeah, vanity. Show off, basically. But that's very crude, you know. Show off is like, vanity is the urban word for show off. It's something that is very trendy in LA, California. Show off is like from some dungeon in Somalia, you know, that word. So vanity. Once somebody was really frustrated with another person, you know, the attitude. So he says, you have such vanity in you. He says, thank you. At least, even in these unhealthy qualities, there is sophistication in me. I'm sophisticated about it. Vanity. So what is human psychology? Human beings by nature always feel, not humans, all living entities, but specifically humans because their intelligences are a little more evolved. The evolutionists call it the survival instinct. So they become very defensive because of the survival instinct. If they're not able to run away, then it's fight. So in fight, basically, they try to, offense is the only option when your defense fails. In the olden days, if you're trying to capture a lion alive, then you surround it on all sides and leave just one opening. And in our village, growing up, that is what they used to tell us about cats too. They said, if there is a cat in the house and it's causing trouble, a stray cat comes in, surround it from all sides, and just leave one opening from which it can run away. And we asked them why. They said because if they feel they are completely blocked, then they'll become very aggressive. So, over so many evolutionary periods, human beings have retained this trait, typically. What is a trait? That if a human is in a situation where they need to inquire from another, and in that equation, they know each other well, and the other person could have a little more knowledge, and they need to inquire and get an answer. They need to get something from them. If the inquirer has some idea of what could be achieved, despite the fact that they ask, what are my options, they will only be happy with the options that they have already imagined. This is human psychology. And if they are faced with options that they already have imagined is not going to keep them happy, they'll feel very uncomfortable when those options are offered to them. It doesn't really matter if it is good or not good. It does not really matter. Typically, the immediate response, the basic, what evolutionists call as the animal instinct. The basic instinct is, if it is favorable, the options that are offered to me, if that is favorable, then I feel very happy about it. However, if I feel it is unfavorable, then I'm very reluctant to accept those options. And we can see this happening in this dynamic here. Now, what happens when we have an unfavorable option available? What happens? If we have to accept those options that we are not happy about, it creates further problems for us in life. We may have sleepless nights. We may feel unfulfilled even after doing the tasks. It's like, yeah, but I got this job, it's paying my, bills. But it's really not what I want to do. I'm not happy with it. if they are uncomfortable with the options that they have and they cannot express that because of the relationship that's there, they try to put on a mask of goodness. So internally, they're uncomfortable, but externally, they're all smiles. So amongst friends, I really hate my job, but when it is with the superiors, I like what I'm doing. They're really, it has been passed down genetically in all cultures. That's not true. But that is how it seems. Somehow a human learns that knack. Now, having accepted options that one is not comfortable with, but one is putting up a facade externally, makes it more difficult for the particular individual to say no to the task. Why? Because externally now you've said that I like it. So next time when there's a review, it's so difficult to say, I don't like it. Arjuna already did not want to fight because of his own reasons. What was the reason? Weakness of heart. Having been trained as a person that can give security, just imagine you have hired somebody who assures you that don't worry, during the day you take care of yourself, at night I will be there to give you security. And suddenly that person has weakness of heart, becomes fearful in the night. That person is simply going to run away. What about you? You're in grave danger and you're asleep to it. So Arjuna had been trained to protect society. Society had invested in him. So many people had their stocks invested in him. And now he says, how can I do this task? Because I see somebody there that is very likable. However, he doesn't want to accept that he has weakness of heart. So he has an external facade. Krishna, you only told me, no? Actually, if you want me, I can do it. But you only told me that one should not participate in work that is abominable. Therefore, he calls Krishna. How does he address Krishna here? Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana. Janardan, you've heard the word Janardan. In Kerala, we have a beautiful temple of Lord Janardan. Janardan Swami. It is very close to a very, very, very acclaimed beach. The next time, if you have time, visit the beach. You can have fun. And then just take out time to visit temple too. Because you've heard about it now. Jana Ardhan. Ardhan means, it comes from the word Ardha. That is a root word. To destroy, to trouble. So Janardhan, Arjuna is saying, why are you creating trouble for everyone here? Krishna, Janardhan. So Jana, direct meaning that is often used is people. Ardhana means trouble. So one who gives trouble to people is Janardhan. No wonder Krishna is called Janardhan. Since the time we have come in contact with this Bhagavad Gita, it's really been troublesome. But Jana also has another usage, like in Janma, birth. So that root Jan also has another usage. Verbal roots are words, let us say, not words, alphabets, a conjunction of alphabets that can be used to form words. That is called as a verbal root. A verb is what provides heart to any sentence. If there's no verb in a sentence, then the sentence practically falls apart. So verbal roots are very important to form words. So Jana also indicates birth. So Janardhan means that person who destroys that which is born. It basically means Janardhan is someone who protects the living entities by giving them knowledge about how to become free from birth and death. So Arjuna here is carefully playing with Sandhi. He is calling Krishna Janardhan. Now sometimes you wonder what are the different words by which Krishna is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita? 20 words, 21 words. Full marks. I know that. It is also very helpful to see how these words and their meanings add a little more excitement in your lives. A little more excitement. The next time you use the word Janardhan, you can yeah, I understand. Someone who fixes things. Anything that's gone wrong, Janardhan fixes it. So next time you want to fix anything that's gone wrong, just say Janardhan, Janardhan, Janardhan. Remember Krishna. It's a nice way. If you know the meaning, then that is how you address Krishna now. Yes? And tam tat kim karmane ghore mam niyojayasi. Jayasi and niyojayasi. So first you say that one should be engaged in meditation using one's intelligence, because if you use intelligence while carrying out work, then you get benefited. So you restrain your senses according to your intelligence. And now you are asking me, Neo-Jayasi. You're asking me to engage in ghastly war. But Neo-Jayasi has a more stronger impact as a word. Neo-Jayasi means your proposal is not leaving me with any options. Basically, you're telling me to do this work and I do not have any options. I have to do it. So he's asking, Kim Niyojiyasi? Why are you doing like that? And then he calls Krishna Keshav. So according to Sanskrit, Keshav can also be a combination of 3 words. Ka, Isha, Pasava. or Vasha. So Ka, the letter Ka is also used to address Lord Brahma. Isha is also used to address Shiva. And Vasha. Even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma have to follow your instructions. Similarly, you are asking me to fight? I don't think so I have an option here. Neo Jayasi Keshava. So Srila Prabhupada concludes by saying that because Arjuna is asking in a very favorable attitude, although he is challenging Krishna, his intent, his attitude shows that he is open-minded. Basically, Arjun is saying, Neo Jayasi Keshava, Krishna, ultimately if you ask me, I'm just going to accept your instructions and follow it. That's who I am. I'm your disciple because I've already said that. Shishyasteham. So I will accept what you say. However, people should not say that I am a blind follower. Hence, I'm asking you questions. I'm asking you to clarify. And now Krishna is going to clarify in the 3rd chapter how to work without being attached to the results of the work, thinking it is for our own enjoyment. He's going to explain that. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Any comments? Yes.
Just in the last section. Just right now you mentioned how Arjuna, he was open to accept Krishna's verdict, even if, in the beginning he challenged. But he had that faith. So in our stage, neither do we have knowledge, complete knowledge, to ask and, or we may not even have that inclination to take in so much knowledge. And we may not even have that much faith to accept it. How do we know that, okay, we have to trust this particular path completely?
So, we feel that we do not have sufficient knowledge or sufficient faith. We also do not have a war. So we have time to develop our faith. In one sense, we do not have a similar crisis. So that is good. All right? You're welcome. Anything else? We'll stop. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for wonderfully connecting with chapter 2nd. We know the chapter 3, how it starts, but the way you presented how specific verses where Krishna spoke certain words, and based on which Arjuna started the third verse, third chapter. That was very insightful. Thank you so much. And Prabhuji will be here for some more time. If anyone has questions or anything want to discuss, and prasadam will be served in the garage, so devotees can make a line and they can take prasadam. They can take prasadam here in the hall or inside the house also, whatever suits best. Okay, Hare Krishna. We can take the prasadam.